Greetings everyone, welcome back to our channel. And today we're discussing how to do mouse control flight, because I've been asked by a few people on how to do it. Basically, like, they want a tutorial, so why not? I'm just going to show you some of the different ways to do it. Basically, I compiled a few designs on a very basic template aircraft on how to do it. So let's start off with what I did for my multiplayer video, because this is probably the most effective mouse control technique for combat purposes. Basically, let me show you flying a bit. It flies like this. It basically flies like a rocket. Those wings are entirely unnecessary. The tail is necessary because, well, you need stabilization. You need more drag in the back than the front. Otherwise the plane's just flipping circles. But other than that, yeah, it worked great. So what am I doing here? Basically, I put aiming servos on another aiming servo. So, and I put some fins and my weapons on there. So why? Well, because the aiming servo, this controls up and down, this controls left and right. So this will basically move wherever your camera points, up to a max of 45 degrees, because more than that and it's not actually helping you turn at all. So yeah, so move to a max of 45 degrees in a cone in front of your plane. And then you have these fins here, so that if you move in any of those degrees, it's going to make the plane want to move in that place, because the fins will cause drag. And then your weapons are also there so that you can point wherever you want. And that just makes weapons. You don't need weapons here, but that's probably the optimal way to do it. So that's all this is, really. This whole thing and this whole thing will point wherever your camera points in a 45-degree cone in front of you. So I can go there, I can go there, I can go there. Great, let's move on to idea number 2. Or technique number 2. This does... oh yeah, this one. So this is what I originally planned to do for my multiplayer video, but it didn't really work on the design, and this one, it's not perfect either. But what this is basically doing is, firstly, we have these aiming servos connected directly into these elevators, but they're backwards, so when I point up, these things will point that way. I'm making not much sense. Don't worry about it. You can look at it and understand what I'm saying. So that's simple enough. So what am I doing with the rest? Well, over here, I just aiming servo pointing forward, so this will point wherever my camera is pointing. That's moving the top fins. While on here, I'm having the aiming servo point backwards, so this will try to point where my camera is pointing, but it's not going to be able to. So it's going to either switch between left and right. And so that's basically doing the backwards of what I want to do. Of like the top one. So this creates roll, because they're basically acting like a vertical ailerons. So all that talking aside, what am I doing with this? Well, basically, I have pitch control and I have roll control. Simple enough. Now, this one I'm pretty sure works best when you're in like first person or any other mode that follows your camera, because this mode, it still flies, but it's a bit weird to fly. So, but if I switch to, let's say, behind seat, then it's a lot more intuitive to fly it here, because your camera moves with the creation in this mode. And this is not tuned. You can definitely tune it to be a lot better, but yeah. This is how to do that. So basically I have full mouse control with like pitch and roll, while actually like controlling the control surfaces themselves. Now let's say you didn't want pitch and roll, and instead wanted pitch and yaw. I'm pretty sure that's the next design. I hope my memory doesn't fail me. This one. Yep, pitch and yaw. So this design, don't mind, this is just fixed fins, that's not an aiming servo. Here's the aiming servos. Does it fly well? No, it does not fly well. Can you make it fly well? Definitely. You can definitely make this fly well. This is just a concept. But yeah, you can see I have basically yaw control, and I have pitch control. Now, for pitch and yaw designs like this one, or the first design, which is technically also a pitch and yaw design, if you want the plane to like always like stay level, even after turning and not like flip upside down or something like that, which doesn't matter for your case, because the aiming servo is going to point where your camera points anyways. But if you want the plane to like, for visual purposes, stay more upright, or like for lift purposes, because the lifts won't work upside down, then you should put more weight at the bottom of your plane than the top, so it creates a passive stability. Or you can add a dihedral. Dihedral also work. Okay, I'll explain what a dihedral is. Basically, you see this wing? If the wing was like pointed up like that, like you see where my cursor is going, then that would be like a dihedral. If it was pointing like down like that, that's an anhedral. So yeah, if you had dihedral, it creates passive stability, along with putting the wings up high or putting your weight down low. Yeah. Alright, let's move on. Next up, we have this one. Yes. Yuzi made a video on this design. Well, not exactly this design. This design's different. But he made a video on the physical design that uses the aiming servos to trigger sensors, which trigger the control surfaces. So that's exactly what I've done here as well. So I have these aiming servos. I believe these are set to a max of 7 degrees in each angle. So this can only go up and down 7 degrees. This can only go left and right 7 degrees. Why 7? Because that works best for the sensors. Sensors are set to normalized the distance of 0.8. I tested values that work the best. And the sensor offset is -80 because I want the detecting part of the sensor to be here. Now my graphics are set to low, so you can't even see the red dot. I have no option in there. I'm playing on a laptop. But yeah, and then output sail. Yes, I've set this to 1, and I have set this to -1. Because, yeah, it makes sense. And then these sensors will basically output a value between -1 and +1. That's why I have this set to like weird values like 7 degrees and 0.8 distance, because that tunes the value between -1 and +1. So these will go into the pitch, which I've set to the elevator tail, and these ones, which is literally this system just flipped sideways, it's literally the exact same thing, will go into the ailerons for roll control. I prefer pitch and roll over pitch and yaw, because well, normally when you fly planes you won't be using pitch and yaw. Now let's take off, and yeah, like the other pitch and roll system, this definitely works better in first person. And as for the oscillations, that's because the tail is set to like a very high number, which if you set the speed on the tail, I'm really not wording today. The speed is set way too high on the tail, so that's why it's doing that. But in first person, it doesn't do that, or in any other camera that follows the plane, because your plane is moving with it, so that the tail can't oscillate exactly. Yeah, so this flies much better in first person, and this was optimized for first person. So yeah, it's actually quite coherent to fly. I'm not gonna attempt flying through that because I don't trust my own piloting skills. And okay, mouse control is nice and all, but sometimes it's not the most precise control, even if you might think it is. It's best for aiming guns, it's not best for aiming planes. Let's say that. So, but it's very coherent to fly. It's definitely coherent to fly, but it just doesn't feel as precise as just using normal controls. It feels a lot more floaty. So yeah, there's that. But that's also why I set the speed on the ailerons and the tail to very high, because it feels very floaty. I don't want it to feel very floaty. Yeah. Now let's move on to the next design. This is pitch and roll, but let's do what UC did, I believe, which was pitch and yaw. So yes, mouse control 5. So what this is doing is, this is same system, except for the sideways sensors, they're actually not triggering the ailerons anymore. They're triggering this hinge, which is moving the tail left and right. So they're making that tail at the back move left or right. You can see that. Yep. And they're also causing the roll action because I plugged them into a gyro as well. And the gyro stabilizer is here so that when the gyro rolls us, it doesn't actually roll proper like a roll. It'll just tilt us a bit. It won't tilt us all the way. So let me just show you in flight. Let's get in the air. In the air, not in the water. Alright, I think the tail's also set a bit too high for here. Control speed is set a bit high. But yeah, it won't actually like roll us. It'll just tilt us a bit. This one also works best in first person. Honestly, for most mouse control, it works best when your seat follows the camera. For like planes and stuff, mouse control planes. For turrets and all that, it's fine if it doesn't. But when you're actually controlling the whole vehicle, it's best when it does. Yeah. Nice. This is the same tether effect that happens when you connect the mouse control to a camera, which we discovered last time we tested aiming servos. And now for the final design. After which I'll tell you which design works the best for, well, depending on what purposes you want. Basically, you can do the whole thing with just gyros, plugging everything into gyros instead of actually plugging into control surfaces. And we have this. This is the exact same design as the pitch and roll design, except instead of plugging into ailerons and the elevator, we're plugging into gyros in the 2-axis. Now, this definitely needs tuning. I literally just put gyros in there. There's no tail or anything in here. It'll definitely fly a lot better with tail. But, yeah. It flies decently well. And you can definitely make it fly a lot better. So just saying, gyros are an option for mouse control. You can set the controls into a gyro instead of just the actual elevators. Alright, so which design is the best? Well, what are you trying to do? If you want the best design for like pure performance, like best dogfighting design, then this is probably the best way to go. This, when like made right, this is not made for like maximum turn rate, but if you make it with like maximum turn rate, then this is definitely the best, like most intuitive way to aim and destroy enemies. And it is part of the reason why I won last time's battle. The best design for like cargo aircraft or like airliners and all that is probably this one, the one that Yuzi did, where, okay, this is not tuned well actually at all, but what? Well, I took like 5 minutes making these builds, okay? But it's probably this design with the pitch and yaw with like the sensors, because like it rolls your plane a bit, so it makes it look like you're using that to turn, but you're also using yaw to turn. And yeah, it just feels intuitive, but it's not good for dogfighting at all because you don't have full control of your plane. You're just doing yaw and pitch, no roll control. There's one more optimal design that I thought of, and that is if you want dogfighting, but you want to be somewhat like realistically, I guess, because the original pitch and roll design isn't really very realistic. Well, I'd recommend this design. This is the one with sensors sending control surfaces for pitch and roll, because this feels definitely the most intuitive to fly and probably the most fun to dogfight with. It's not overly overpowered, but it feels reasonable basically, and I like this design. So that's my opinions. You can always do whatever you want, and this is just some designs on how to do mouse control. So I thought, let's try adding mouse control to some of my old plane designs to see how the planes would fly with some of these new mouse control techniques. And let's use the fighter airliner. I like this one. And I think we might have some space inside. Alright then. We have this airliner, which you might recognize from the fighter airliner video. Yeah, it turns into a fighter jet with guns. It's not the best fighter jet in the world, but yeah, it's an airliner. What do you expect? But that's not why we're here. We're here because I put mouse control in here. Do I know if it works or not? Well, I mean, I know that the controls work. I don't know if it'll fly or not. So let's try it. Alright, this is probably too high of an area of like angle of attack. Let me switch to, yeah, firstly we would switch to fighter mode, because that gives us the extra thrust from the rocket engine. And this is actually not that bad. This is flyable. Like, I can totally dogfight someone with this airliner right here, just using mouse control. And as before, I can prove I'm not using any other controls, because if I was, you'd be seeing this at the bottom of my screen. Instead, you just see nothing. I mean, I'm holding on space, but that fades away after a bit. Yeah, this is not very stable, but this airliner has a slight dihedral. But still, since it's low wing and all the mass is above the wing, it's not the most stable while turning. Let's try going to first person. Or maybe behind seat. Yeah, behind seat works, because I don't think this has a very good first person view. Yeah, this actually flies decently well. That's nice. First person, not really. Top of seat you can see a bit. Not very much. Like at all, but I mean, you can see a bit. But I think that's enough for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I certainly enjoyed. And I hope you learned something, and you can make cool new mouse-controlled planes. If you want to showcase your mouse-controlled planes that you make after this video, then be sure to join my Discord server. Because it's a very cool server, and you can definitely showcase your builds. Other than that, if you like the video, then, well, like the video. If you want to see more like it, then consider subscribing. And I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye. Alright, as usual, you have to crash. Kaboom! That did nothing.